Hello and welcome to a sort of fundraising Facebook Live. I think most people will probably watch this after it's been filmed, but I'm currently in the magnificent Govan Stones, surrounded by the Govan Stones. Now, the Govan Stones, what are they? They're over 1,000 years old. We know that they are carved in this region here, specifically the ones we're looking at today in Govan itself. All the stones you're going to see today are carved by these Clyde Britons. So they would be a Northern Brittonic people and would have spoken a Northern Brittonic language, maybe like an Old Welsh sort of language if you think of it in those terms. What we're looking at here now is the first stone that visitors generally see. It is the Sunstone. The reason it's called the Sunstone is because we have this boss with snakes spiralling out of it, which is a motif that you will also see, for example, on the high crosses at Iona. But as I always like to say on our tours, we've actually got earlier evidence so far to date for Christian activity in Govan Old. We've got that dating back to about AD 500. And we look at this sketch that we've got from Historic Scotland. This is what we're probably looking like in the Viking Age. So when these stones are carved, you can imagine we're in this kind of Christian. It's a churchyard, but something monastic. It's a royal centre. This is the centre of the Clyde Britons Christian world. And this is now where the bridge is here. This is where the Riverside Museum is, but there was a crossing point here. And here you've got the now long lost Doomster Hill, which we think was kind of like a moot hill, a Parliament hill. And we think maybe it got this curious stepped appearance in the Viking Age. We can talk more about that some other time. But this is what we think we're looking at when these stones are carved, and this is sort of 9th, 10th century. And you can see the shape is preserved in the landscape. You can see it, for example, here. We know this is about 1,500 years old. We have two burials that we got around about here in the 1990s, and they date to about AD 500. Hence, we've got slightly to date, as I say, earlier evidence than Iona. But you can imagine that sort of similar sort of setup, a very prestigious, very early Christian site. And you can see the shape of the graveyard here in this map from the 1930s. And this aerial view from 1930, you can see the Harland and Wolff plating shed, and it has to actually amazingly curve around our early medieval graveyard. So this is a real time capsule. This is an amazing survival. And that's why the archaeologists are still digging in Govan Old churchyard at the moment. And really that's what, we're on this video today. We're trying to raise money. We're trying to raise £10,000, which will help unlock £2 million of funding. So this money will go towards projects in the graveyard to do with the history and the archaeology, but also just with the nature as well. So once we raise that £10,000, we can do so much more on this project for 2 years, but we can also work on our extension at Govan Old, which will be just through this doorway here. And that will allow us much better access for everybody to be able to use proper, accessible facilities. So the money that you donate, I've got the donation in the title. I'll put it out in the comments after this as well. But if you go to Enthuse and search for the Govan Stones in that, you'll see a project where we're trying to raise this £10,000. But back to the stones. This is the Govan Cross, also known as the Jordan Hill Cross, because it was across the river for about 100 years in Jordan Hill, but it's been back here since about 1928. And what we've got here is a standing cross. You can maybe just see here how this is coming up to the sort of armpits of a Celtic cross. So it's a point where it would tend to break because you had the two armpits in here. So this is the point of stress. But it's absolutely gorgeous, and you really see how this is the centre of a kingdom, the money that's invested in this. And you can also see things like the Pictish influence. So the Strathclyders, these Clyde Britons, are very much, I would say, a magpie kingdom. They like to take cultural, religious, political influences from their neighbours. They're a very sort of fractured, mosaic landscape. You've got the Picts, you've got the Anglo-Saxons, you've got Dalriadan Gaels, and you've got the Vikings coming in as well. And the Strathclyders are kind of beaten up quite a lot. They fight, they combine with other forces, but they're also, the Picts and the Northumbrians will gang up on them as well. So it's a very fraught environment, and that, to use a term that we're currently using in archaeology, it creates a sort of fracture kind of zone. And these sort of zones will create societies that are kind of like that. They're magpies, and they're kind of surviving, but they're surviving by, becoming very kind of, to use a modern terms, multicultural. They've taken influences from all over, and Ben Raffield will talk about that sort of thing. But we see here, we've got this beautiful cross on the sunstone, and we've got a warrior on horseback as well. So again, you can see this is probably a sword, and this is a spear. You've got a nice Govan ponytail sticking out the back as well. I think maybe this is to depict a king riding into battle. You can see the horse is galloping. But they're trying to show essentially the world that they're Christians, but they're also warriors as well. We think initially this actually might have been a prehistoric standing stone that they actually have to adapt by creating a sort of tin and mortise arrangement here, like a big Lego, and maybe you put on some sort of wooden crosshead on the top of this, or perhaps maybe you put in a cult icon for a particular religious festival. So we have three, and actually we have four of these standing crosses. This is one of the third ones here. Again, you've got another horse and rider here. So you can maybe just see the leg and the horse, and you can see the parallels with another horse and rider here. In terms of numbers, though, we have lots of these stones called recumbents. So these originally would have been laid flat, so they're up against the wall here just really for display purposes. But you can see the cross, you can see this beautiful interlace and knotwork. These originally would have been over the grave cut of a king or a queen or a bishop of these Clyde Britons. And these are carved in the 9th, 10th century. Where you do see initials and lettering on them, that's a phenomenon of the sort of 16th, 17th, 18th centuries when the locals start to reuse these stones for their own burials. That's probably a couple there, A-R-I or J-R. So that might be the Rowan family who are big landowners around here. And we have lots of these stones. I won't go through all of them now. As I say, this is just to raise awareness of the fact that we're trying to raise £10,000, which will help with the projects in Govan Old's 1,500-year-old graveyard, but also the archaeology we're doing when we're finding these slightly later early medieval stones from the 9th and 10th centuries, but also helping us with our accessibility, which is really important to us as well. But here's another one of these stones. I'll just briefly go through that. We call this generally the Bogle stone because it's been reused twice. The second time by the family of William Bogle. That's maybe the kind of 18th century, and then there's a family of RD before that, and that's maybe kind of more like 16th century. So this has had at least 3 burials beneath it in the last 1,000 years, and it really is a masterpiece of these recumbent stones, which you also get at Iona as well. And we've got a Govan Early Medieval podcast. We do a podcast series, and we had a chat with Dr. Adrian Maldonado from the National Museum of Scotland, and he talked about parallels between Govan and Iona. And Iona also have these recumbent stones, but in very prominent places, including right in front of what we think of as the shrine of St. Columba. So even though we've got lots of them, we think that doesn't necessarily mean they're of lesser importance. Now again, coming through the glorious Govan Old Church, which again, your donations will be helping to support, we come to the Govan Hogbacks, which people will literally cross oceans to see. We have 5 of them. I'll just do a little bit of talk about this one here. Hello, and we're back. So we're at the edge of our internet here, but hopefully you can see we're talking about the Govan Hogbacks now. This seems to be a form that develops in the north of England. Personally, I think it's Vikings who are settling there, becoming Christian. You only find these in Christian graveyards like the one at Govan. And they tend to have this form. They're called hogbacks. It's a later name, so you don't need to worry about it too much, but you've got this kind of ridged arch back, which people think is looking a bit like a pig. Most of them have slightly bowed edges out here as well as the ridge back. We think this is meant to maybe look like some sort of hall, maybe some sort of house shrine, maybe even a sort of Viking-style longhouse. I think personally, these are Scandinavians that are settling, becoming Christian, and they develop this sort of Anglo-Scandinavian form that spreads through trade, culture, personal connections. And the Strathclyde Britons certainly get into them, and this is probably the earliest one, but then we create serpent or dragon type creature, and these are known as end-beasts. So if you think of these as Steve Driscoll would say, like a house of the dead, these are end-beasts that are protecting this house of the dead. So whether it's Scandinavians or Scandinavian-influenced people, this seems to be, again, you're showing your connection of England. This is showing your connections north of England. So I'm going to try and keep up with the internet. So hopefully it will only drop out very briefly. We like to have fun here. So we have Anne-Marie and Fraser just entirely normally with their medieval helmets on. You can see some of the beautiful Govan old stained glass here as well. Thanks, guys. And we're coming to this now. I will actually turn the light on because this is the Govan sarcophagus. So along with... Well, the lights have just gone off. Okay. But you can still see it well. This is the Govan sarcophagus. This was discovered when they were digging for a grave in 1855 in the southeastern corner of the graveyard. And that was the early medieval entranceway. Currently, the archaeologists under Professor Steve Driscoll of the University of Glasgow, in association with Clyde Archaeology, are working on a trench in that southeast corner. This was found in 1855, but we're still finding stones and this amazing early medieval monumental entranceway and road that's coming in as well. But we'll talk about that in a second. But this here is the Govan sarcophagus. So it's carved from a single lump of stone. It's carved on all its sides, but we'll just look at the front here, but you can see inside as well. It's hollowed out and probably had a lid. You can see how it's kind of chamfered here. You can see that there's probably a lid and maybe that's smashed up. Maybe this is taken out in the Reformation. It's buried in a pit and they smash up the lid. But we've got this amazing scene of a hunting scene on it here. You can see again, another armed rider on horseback. You've got, we think it's a hunting scene, so you've got a hunting dog, and you can see a stag here as well. And I've had lots of discussions with my colleague Fraser Cappy about this final panel here. He's done some interesting research and looking at parallels for this scene across early medieval Europe and the Eastern Roman or Byzantine world as well. We think actually this is a Lamb of God. It's looking back over its tail, it's nibbling its own tail, and it's crushing two creatures beneath it. You've got this maybe something like a wolf, so you imagine this is on its back with its legs up in the air, and then you've got a snake here. So maybe we think these are essentially symbols of evil, and this is the Lamb of God, or essentially sort of Christ defeating evil associated with this figure. And we think this figure on horseback was the person who was buried inside, and we think that was a guy called Constantine, known as St. Constantine. Our best evidence at the moment suggests that this is a Pictish king who's killed by the Vikings around about 876. Because his sister had married into the royal family of these Clyde Britons, we think that she gets his body and creates this shrine, because it's quite sad that her brothers died, obviously, but at the same point she can go politically. This is very important for me because my brother is now a saint, and it connects the Pictish world with the British world, also creates this cult focus centre, which, as we know, can be very remunerative. You can make lots of money and have lots of influence, as well as the spiritual benefits of having the saint. And if you've got a saint in your own family, that's equally powerful as well. So we're going to take a wee walk down so you can get an idea of the magnificence of this A-listed building with its beautiful coat bags and all the different amazing companies that we work with, who provide us with this early medieval material. But for this, we're specifically asking for people to donate to our Enthuse website, which just says the link in the description, and I'll put a link on the comments as well. Literally, okay, we're back. So yeah, just to re-emphasise what we're saying there, if you could go to that website, give anything, £1, €1, $1, We've got like over 10,000 followers on Facebook now. If everyone just gave £1, we would reach our target. And I say that 10,000 unlocks 2 million, which helps everything with what we're doing in the Govan Stones 1500-year-old graveyard, but also in the church and helping us with access as well. But equally supporting us by buying books and coming into the shop and donating helps as well. But specifically, we're asking for this particular block of money that will unlock a much larger funding amount. So yeah, here, this is what we've got. This is the Govan Warrior. Now, just for the purposes of this, I'll probably show you the 3D model. It was made by Al from Archaeoptics. So this is, we actually have another one here. It's probably even easier to see, but you can see here, just to get an idea, this is an exact one-to-one replica of the stone. And what you can see here is we have lots of pictures influence, but this is the nearest we have to something like the Rhynie Man or the male figure, the M-A-I-L from Shetland. You can see the very kind of shallow relief carving, very much more pictish than the sort of chunky carving that you tend to get in the Govan school, which is the school you'll see in Govan and also in places like Inchin and throughout kind of Renfrewshire, this sort of area, but stretching north and south of here as well. It's quite an influential school. Here, though, what we've got is, you can see a circular shield. It's a warrior, we think, in profile. The straps of the sword are there. You can see a left arm and a right arm, and they basically seem to be holding a spear or a sword over their shoulder. You can see a pointy beard and a lovely ponytail. Ponytails are very popular in the Govan Stones as well. So this was discovered by Professor Steve Driscoll 2 years ago in the area where they're digging with this monumental kind of entranceway and early medieval roadway, and also the same place where we found the sarcophagus, I say we, in 1855, a grave digger in 1855 discovered. So maybe, as discussing with Adrian on the Govan Early Medieval podcast, maybe that's something we have a separate shrine. Maybe when you come into or exit Govan Stones churchyard, you're met with the shrine of, as I say, potentially St Constantine. So basically, that's it for now. As I say, please, if you can, go to the website now, give any money you can. It doesn't matter if it's 50p or £5 or 500. We're just grateful for anything. I say, if we can get up to the £10,000, we're already at about 35%. But you know, the sooner we get to that total, the sooner we can start to do more great things with the archaeology, with the environment at Govan Old, and we can work on accessibility as well, which is something we're really keen to do as quickly as possible with our extension. So thank you very much. If you've enjoyed this, share it. I say share the link for the funding, the Enthuse website with your friends and family, and we really appreciate your interest, and thank you for watching.